Okay, we're live. So now, he's listening to this lecture. This lecture is a big philanthropist, and he's like unbelievable. Gives like hundreds of millions of dollars to charity. Really incredible. And he encourages other people to give. And he said the following: he said he was very disturbed. We know this verse that we just learned here in Malachi just now tells us that you can test God. He says, I know many people who tested God and it didn't come out correctly, right? They didn't earn what they wanted to earn. They didn't succeed in the way they wanted to succeed. And there's a promise here. You can test God. They gave 10%. They gave their tithe. And yet they didn't have the same results as they anticipated. He says, what's the reason for it? See, he was troubled by it. He went to many rabbis and he asked them. And he came up with an answer. And this is the answer he came up with. He says, imagine you strike it rich. You have a great business. And you don't want to be busy with the small details of running your philanthropy or your charitable donations. So you assign someone to be your executor, someone who's going to be your guy, your gabbai, right? And he's going to sign out the checks for you. And anyone who comes to you, you send them to him, and he signs out the checks for you. Great system. That way, you're giving your charity. You're able to focus on your work and able to earn more money and give more money to the charity. That's excellent. He says, but what happens if you find out a few weeks later, a few months later, or a few years later, that this person that you assigned now decided that he's going to use this as his own weapon. He's going to use it to decide, this person accepted my son to yeshiva, so I'm going to give him money. This person didn't accept my daughter to his girls' school, so I'm not going to give money to him. This person is going to honor me at the synagogue, so I'll give him. This person is not going to honor me, I'm not going to give him. And he starts using his own personal agenda as to who he gives his money to, who gives the other person's money to. Imagine if the philanthropist found out about this. What would he do? First thing he'd do is fire the guy. 1 second, you're starting to make calculations on my money, on what your benefits are going to be? So he says, of course I'm going to take away the paycheck, the checkbook from this guy, right? I don't want him distributing the money for me on his own personal agenda. He says, we are God's checkbook. He says, if we start deciding what we like and what we don't like, then God says, I'm taking the checkbook away from you. He says, as soon as he heard this, he ran to our website and made a donation. He says, there's no question, you guys are a Torah institution, but if I'm going to start picking and choosing what I benefit from, and that's what I give the money to, he says, God's not going to trust me anymore. I'm God's checkbook. It has, and this individual said, not my friend, but the other person says, anybody who knows me knows I'm an indiscriminate giver. Any institution that comes to me, I give. I may not give the same amount, but I give everybody. There's no such thing that I tell somebody I don't give. Right? Because if God gives me, he wants me to give to everything, whether I like the institutions or I don't like the institutions. Whether it's my favorite charity or not my favorite charity. Whether it's the people who will honor me or not honor me. Or not recognize me at all. Or who might not even send me a thank you note. I give to everybody. All right? I think it's such an important lesson that we understand. I want to tell you another story, a fascinating story I saw yesterday in the Midrash. An unbelievable story. So there's a story about a man who had a very, very, very successful land, very fertile land, and every year it would produce 1,000 crops. And every year he gave 100 crops to charity. He tithed meticulously. And every year he had very, very successful. He was doing so well, unbelievable. One day he was about to die. See, he tells his son, listen to me. The fields are very successful. They produce 1,000 crops every year. But you need to promise me that you're going to give away 100 crops every year. You're going to tithe meticulously. He says, Dad, don't worry. I will continue your legacy. I will continue to tithe. And what happened? He tithed the first year. And the second year, he says to himself, you know something? To give 100 of 1,000 is a lot. He says, I'm not going to give 100, I'm going to give 90. And the next year, the field only turned in 900 crops. And then he says, 900, I'm going to give 90, that's a lot. I'm going to give 80 this year. And the following year, he made 800. And then the following 700, because he took it down to 70 and 60 and 50 and 40 and 30 and 10, 12 and 10, 20 and 10. And then he was down to, he was so poor, right? He only made 100 crops from 1,000. And he was very, very sad. Didn't know what to do. One day, as he was sitting in his house thinking, all depressed, he hears a loud noise from outside. And he sees it's a group. He's surprised. There's a whole group of people. They're all dressed in clothes like for a wedding. And they're coming. They're all happy and they're dancing and they're joyous. So he goes outside and he sees it's his relatives. What are they coming to mock him at his misfortune and how his crops went from 1,000 to 100? They all reckon. So they said no. He says, "We'll tell you why." He says, "Who would the 10% go to?" He said, "The 10% would go to the Kohen. The 10% would go to the righteous people. That go to the institutions." He says, "You thought that you were God, or so you were right, and you're giving to the Kohen. God is telling you, you're the Kohen. You're the Kohen. It's God's crops, and He's giving you now 10%. So we're coming to congratulate you on being the Kohen." Right? You thought it was your crops, and you're giving it to the Kohen. Hashem is telling you, no, it's my crops, and I'm giving it to you, and that's why you're only getting the 10%. Right? The son understood exactly what his relatives meant, and he accepted the rebuke, and he realized that he needed to correct what he was doing, and it was only because he decreased from his maaser, from his tithe, that his income decreased, and therefore he changed he changed his ways, and he went back to making those 1,000 crops, those 1,000 bushels that he would normally make. Hashem has very interesting ways in which He operates. I can tell you an amazing story from a Pinchas ben Yarbi. You're gonna have to listen to the rest of it on a podcast, on the Shema podcast with Dan Coleman. But I'll tell you, it really is. It's amazing that Hashem tests us with this, and I can tell you myself. That when I'm very careful and very cautious to give the maaser, to give the tithe, and to sometimes try to give a fifth, which is 20%, which is a promise, by the way, of guaranteed success, guaranteed wealth, is if you give 20%. Right, 10%, you're guaranteed God will pay you back handsomely. Right, 20%, right, is a promise to unbelievable wealth. But again, it takes a lot. I have an amazing story I've shared many times about someone who gives 20%. But Hashem here in this Haftorah of this week's Parsha is telling us, "Uvchanuni na bezos." You can test me by this, because the success is guaranteed. It's guaranteed, right? It is so amazing how the words of the Torah, these words are written thousands of years ago, right? But Hashem never sleeps. All right, Hashem lo yonun v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. The keeper, the watcher, the protector of Hashem is always there to be there for us. Absolutely, yes. You want to say hello again? Yeah. Okay. Say hi, everybody. You want to show everybody this? Yeah. Okay, show. Look. Say have a great day, everybody.
Who gave that to you?
What?
Who gave that to you?
What? Who gave it to you? Who gave it to you? What?
He wants to know who gave it to you.
Okay.
Who gave it to you? Mommy?
No.
Who? Yehuda gave it to you.
Hey, Yehuda.
Say thank you to Yehuda.
Thank you.
There you go. Oh, she wants to take the stroller. Okay, so go show it to mommy, okay, sweetie? Thank you so much. I thank you. I thank everyone, and I thank you all for your patience with dealing with my children coming in. But you know what? This is the craziness of our reality today, right?
Why do you think that we watch you?
Oh, right. Now I understand. Now I understand. So it's the reality of our it's funny because I've made it my business to ensure that I keep calm no matter what the circumstances are, particularly in this situation, because you know what? Everybody's facing a challenge. For the children, this is abnormal. I mean, this is crazy. That at 10 o'clock in the morning, they're not in school and they're just roaming around the house. Okay, they ate their cereal already, they're dressed already. Okay, now what? When does class start? Right? So it's like they come in, they stroll in, come join us. They're. Okay, we are on page 201 in part 2 of Rav Wolbe on Chumash. If you have this book in front of you, Ashley, you there? I'm unmuting everyone. Okay.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, great. I have to see you guys. You and your parents? Are you there with your parents?
Yeah, but we're in the middle of doing all of our Pesach and
Okay. I'm not going to put you on the spot. Are you able to read?
my mom is. She has the book in front of her.
Okay, terrific.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, so we'll start from you because you're on the right of my screen. So we'll move from the right to the left. So,
I can't see you.
I know, but you're where I would see
Oh, yeah,
you.
no, I'm telling my mom because she's
Okay.
very shy.
Okay, don't worry. Okay, so we're on page 201, please.
Parshas Tzav. On the
So-
surface, the impression is that the world operates on its own. Although a non-biased individual should be able to discern the grand puppeteer behind the stage, it seems that most people are simply oblivious to their creator. The Sefer HaShinoch offers a fascinating explanation of the mitzvah in this week's Parsha, illustrating to what degree Hashem's presence in this world is hidden. The Torah commands us, a permanent fire shall be lit upon the Mizbeach and shall not be extinguished.
That's the altar. There was a permanent fire that was lit on the Mizbeach, and that fire was Eish Tamid. It was a fire that was constantly burning, and then there was the pillar of smoke that went all the way to the heavens, and even if a wind came, the pillar still remained straight, going all the way up into the heavens. Please continue.
The Shinook writes that even all miracles performed by Hashem are somewhat concealed and appear to be a manifestation of nature. Prior to the splitting of the sea, which was arguably the most astounding miracle in all of history, Hashem moved the sea with a strong east wind all night. This made it possible for people to reason that the entire incident was a result of a natural disaster. The force of a powerful tornado caused the waters to split, allowing the Jews to pass through the parted waters. In a similar vein, despite the fact that a fire descended from heaven onto the Mizbeach, we are commanded to light our own fire upon it to disguise the otherwise overt miracle. Even when Hashem reveals himself, he makes sure to hide behind the veil of nature.
Right. So it's an amazing thing, and many scientists use that fact that's shared. We say it in the Azia Shir that there was this wind, an easterly wind, right? That that blew when the Jewish people were going through the sea, right, and the Yam Suf. That's the reason why we the sea split, because we're trying to hide. They're trying to hide the acceptance that the Almighty is powerful and can do anything, right? But one thing they missed out, that if you look in the details, you'll find Hashem. If you look in the small things, well, it's not small. How did the Jewish people pass through in the sea? It says, and they passed through on dry land. They passed through on dry land, right? Our sages tell us that that's the proof you need to know that it was the Almighty who passed us, right? Because yes, you can split the sea with winds coming from here, from this direction, that direction. There's many ways you can come up with theories of how this happened, right? Through, but you can't dry the land beneath the water so quickly. And that the Jewish people passed on dry land, that is a detail that identifies that this was the hand of Hashem. Right. Glory, would you like to read?
Unmute. Okay.
Sorry.
When the Navi exhorts us to walk modestly with Hashem, that's from Micah, he is not merely instructing us to conceal good deeds rather than seek publicity for them. He is informing us that when a person conceals his actions, he's actually following in Hashem's ways, since Hashem likewise hides. Many people understand the concept of
Is modesty.
Very superficially. The modesty discussed by the Navi refers not to an external dress code, but rather to one's internal spiritual makeup. The Pasuk states, with modest ones comes wisdom. Rabbeinu Yonah explains that Tzeniut is a virtue attributed to the wise, for they hear and listen, and they do not desire to reveal what lies in their heart. They do not feel compelled to reveal everything they have seen and heard. This quality allows them to live a life of
internally, right.
Since they have created for themselves a world that is not dependent on the opinions and desires of others, they're able to focus on their own spiritual state without being affected by outside influences.
Right. So what our sages are telling us here is that the quality of modesty is not what we think modesty is how I dress per se. That's an aspect of it. But modesty is that not everything needs to be known about us. Not everything needs to be means we have to preserve the wisdom that we have. Not everybody needs to know everything we know. Not everybody needs to know everything we think, right? Keep things internally within ourselves. Okay, and it's important because it says v'halachta b'drachav, you should walk in the ways of Hashem. What does it mean v'halachta b'drachav? Just as God hides and conceals the way in which He operates, right? So too we should conceal the way in which we operate, right? And that was like the extra fire that they lit on the mizbeach, right? You'd think, oh, look, this is the fire, but no, it's just concealing the fact that there was a constant fire burning. There was an eish tamid tukad on the mizbeach, right? It takes one to know. And Linda, you want to read?
It takes one to know one. Only a person who lives with tzenius and conceals his actions has the ability to discern Hashem's concealed hand conducting the world. Had Mordecai and Esther not written the Megillah in a manner that highlights the various milestones that occurred over a 12-year period, most people would have viewed these occurrences as happenstance. Vashti happens to disobey Ahasuerus. Esther happens to be chosen as queen, and Mordecai happens to overhear the plot of Bigsan and Saresh. It takes a wise man to connect the dots in a way that produces a picture of Hashem's involvement.
Right, and the whole story of Purim is about how it was hidden, right? That's why we wear masks, because we're showing that we're recognizing that the whole story of Purim is a hidden story, right? You don't see it right on the surface. He doesn't tell you, right? You have to look very, very carefully to see how the hand of Hashem was so divine in every aspect, and how every piece was put into place. It's like such a perfect puzzle, but you can only see that perfect puzzle if you look at the whole picture. But if you look at each individual instance, right, you look at each specific situation, and you're like, well, happenstance. And you look at the other one, oh, another happenstance. And you look at the other one, and it's another happenstance. And you put them all together, and it's like, wow, this is an unbelievable miracle. Which is, by the way I believe the world today operates. The world today, we see so many things going on. We see this virus, right? We had a whole class. You can listen online on YouTube and Facebook. You can find it. We had the great Rabbi Laser Brody, and he gave us on one of the Friday that's Thinking Talmudist class on Friday. He dedicated it to understanding coronavirus. And this is back at the beginning of, it was before March. It was at the end of February, and before it got to what it is today. And he said the word corona means crown. He says it's the Almighty, the crown of Hashem that's missing in our lives. He says it's a lack of emunah. And he says, where does it come from? He says it's from the family of the MERS, which is the Middle East respiratory system syndrome, right? It's from the family of the MERS family of disease, or whatever you call it, right? He says, where does that come from? It comes from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, Middle East, right? He says it comes from Egypt. Where does that come from? So we just read this. All of the illnesses that I brought on Egypt, I won't bring upon you. Who's you? The person who believes in Hashem, right? He says, what was the plague of Egypt? What happened? What were the Egyptians? Today, the people who live in Egypt are Arabs, but that's not what it used to be. It was people who denied God. There is no God. That was the essence of everything. It was the people who denied the existence of God. And what he says, and that's the punishments that God gave were to the people who didn't believe in him. 1 second. Don't jump on me. Okay. Now, he says, this comes from China. And Rabbi Brody shared, he says, I flew to China. He says, hey, he had his books, the Garden of Emunah, and all of those books. And they asked him when he came in, the security, the Chinese security said to him, what's this? He says, this is books on faith. They said, no, you're not allowed to bring this into our country, right? You're not allowed to bring this in. He says, no, it's just to my community. He says, he's going to speak at a specific place. And he says, it's only for them. I said, okay, but here's a written warning that if we see this being sold in the market, you're going to be thrown right into jail. If we see it any place other than in that center that you're going to speak at, we're going to throw you into jail. No questions asked. He says their existence is an existence where they don't believe in God. He says, and that's the source of this virus that we're seeing today, comes specifically from a place where there's a lack of belief in God. We listen to what our sages are telling us, right? Our sages are telling us today, our rabbis, our teachers are guiding us. We need to use this opportunity to strengthen our emunah. We need to use this as an opportunity to strengthen our connection to Hashem. right? Hashem is saying, stop with the synagogues, stop with the bar mitzvahs, stop with all the weddings, stop with everything. Look at me, I'm right here. Hashem is saying, talk to me. Stop. We're getting so carried away with so much craziness. We're getting carried away with so much to say, oh, look, we're going to do a nice bar mitzvah. We're going to do a nice wedding. We're going to do, God's like, I don't want any of it. I don't want the synagogue. I don't want the whole show. All I want is you, not the show. I think it's a very, it's harsh, obviously. We never like to hear anybody claim that they know the reason as to why things happen, right? We don't like that, not when it comes to the Holocaust, not when it comes to any type of a plague like we're seeing today. And the problem is that once it becomes what we're seeing is a plague, then our sages say that the laws of nature change, and then the plague affects anyone in sight, right? It may originate for a certain, but once it becomes the category of a plague, its effect is it doesn't distinguish between good and evil. It doesn't distinguish between good and bad. Anybody in its way is affected by it. And I believe that that's the state we're in today, where this terrible plague is influencing, is affecting all of us. And that's why, I haven't left my house in over 2 weeks, till yesterday when I had an appointment I could not cancel at the bank, right? I haven't left my house. I haven't driven a car in over 2 weeks, because I think it's something we need to really, really consider very, very seriously. That there's no judgment between good and bad, between evil and righteous. We need to stay out of trouble and really protect ourselves in every way, in every measure possible. My children haven't had a play date. My children haven't had friends come over. I don't even let them have friends outside on the driveway, because I'm afraid children, the way they are, they're gonna come into close contact with each other, and they'll be playing sports and throwing. Now, adults is a different story. Adults can at least maintain a 6-foot distance, and that's why, my parents, may they live and be well, are both dealing with health issues, and they're compromised in their immune system, and cannot afford their grandchildren cannot come over and visit them. And my mother's sitting Shiva. And no one can come to Shiva. No one can come to pay a Shiva call. So people are calling on the phone, but it's very different. It's a challenging reality that we're facing today. I would love to share my mother's phone number if anyone wants to call her to pay a Shiva call. You're welcome to call her. I can share her phone number. I'm not going to share it verbally because this is also being broadcast on Facebook. So if anybody wants to know on Facebook, you're welcome to reach out to me, and I will happily give you my mother's information so that you can call her. That was a good sneeze. Thank you. Let me just give you her phone number for those who want. I'm just going to share it right here on our group. I'll share it in the chat, and that way you can, if you'd like to, you can call her. It was her mother, my grandmother, that passed away. Here you go.
Rabbi, I would like to share something.
Please do.
That you made me just think of what you were saying with the impact of this virus on the Jewish community. There was a letter that Rabbi Hirsch wrote in the early 1800s.
Right.
When the opening was coming out in Europe again, Europe was beginning to accept the Jews. And all the rabbis wrote to him and said, what do we do? And Rabbi Hirsch wrote a letter back to all the rabbis and said that the only way we can achieve success and be able to integrate new commerce with the non-Jews, which can be great, but the only way we can do that without risking the Jewish people's survival is to lock up every synagogue in Europe for the next 100 years. Because what he was seeing was that what was out in the world that was opening up to us again was Christianity. And he saw that they were going and bifurcating their life between being a good Christian by going to church on Sunday, but then the rest of their life, it was doing whatever they wanted to. And he was so afraid that the Jews would begin to do that, to bifurcate their life of being religious when they go into the synagogue and not religious. And so he wanted the rabbis to be in the homes and teach people that being Jewish is something that happens 24/7. And it starts in the home, and everyone ignored him. And we know the aftermath of that. But what you just said just made me seem like Hashem is saying, Rabbi Hirsch was right. I'm invoking that decree now.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's frightening. It really is frightening. It's a crazy world we're living in. It really is. It's not normal that Hashem is saying, it's and this is right before Pesach. It's a miracle that we start baking matzahs, the hand matzahs. They start baking them Hanukkah time, because if we started after Purim, you wouldn't have matzahs this year. I mean, it's a real crazy reality that we're living. If you look at your chat on the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's a chat. You click over there and you'll see the phone number there. I dropped it in there. Okay, so creating a relationship with Hashem. Dan, you want to read the last paragraph here?
Creating a relationship with Hashem means that one is cognizant of his presence in his life, something inaccessible to a person who perceives the world superficially. Dig a little under the surface of your skin. Not only will you begin creating a world,
Panemius, which is internal, an internal world.
Okay. But you will also succeed in scraping the veneer off this world and revealing the Creator in all his glory.
So I don't know if you're familiar, but I'm not a big movie person. But I remember when I first came to Eish HaTorah to join the rabbinic program with Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz, my rabbi. So I met with a great man. His name is Rabbi Mati Berger. And Rabbi Mati Berger told me, he says, we were sitting together and schmoozing, and he is a remarkable human being. He says to me, have you ever watched The Matrix? I said, no. He says, watch it and come back to me. So basically what Matrix is telling us, okay, in this movie, now there's better ways for us to learn it, but I think the message coming from a completely secular perspective is very, very powerful. Basically, we have two ways we can live our lives. We can take the red pill and the blue pill, right? We can take one way of living our life, which will be completely in the veneer of the physical world. We will be completely consumed by materialism, or we can dig deep, right, and see how God controls the world. We can see a different perspective of how the world, and there's really two parallel worlds that are going concurrently. One where we see the hand of Hashem in everything that happens, and one where everything seems to just be 1 + 1 = 2. In God's world, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 equals whatever Hashem wants it to be. It's a completely different existence, right? We think I earn $100, I keep $100. And Hashem is telling us, like what we spoke about earlier. Hashem says, give away 10%, and you'll see that it'll grow even more. Where Hashem says, you can borrow money for Shabbos, and I will pay it back, Hashem says. Right? God says, you don't have money for Shabbos? Buy food on my account. I will pay it back. It's an amazing. Levu alai bani poreah. Borrow on me, I'll pay it back. How can Hashem give that promise? Right? We have to understand that we're living in a world where it's capable, but it's an internal world, right? We can live on the external. Just like we, in our own personal lives, we have, our external way in which we present ourselves to the world. But then everyone has inside themselves their own little challenges that they face that we don't want to share with the world, right? In our world of relationship with Hashem, we have those two worlds as well. We have the world inside that we need to develop. It doesn't develop on its own. It's something that we need to develop, which is what we try to do every Monday night in our Musar class, every Sunday morning in our Musar class, to try to develop that internal world, to develop those traits that are godly traits, the traits of patience, the traits of kindness, the traits of forgiveness. These are all important traits that help us become godly human beings, right? We have the terminology Adam, of mankind, because we're from Adama, we're from earth, but it's not the only rhyme, right? It's also because we're Adameh, because we want to be God-like. We want to emulate God. Just as God's traits are all perfect, we want to be all perfect. And we want to become God-like. That is the purpose of our existence, is to be, and every day is its own struggle. And it's not easy because we're living in a material world which convinces us that we're in control. We get into our car and we turn on we push a button and our engine starts, and look, I'm in control. And we can control everything from a device, right? We can control the lights, and we control the temperature, and we can control everything. And here Hashem sends us one little microbe which throws everything out of order. And suddenly we're not in control. So I'll tell you, I want to share with you, everybody's stress is in a different way. Everybody stresses in a different way. And when I stress, I have terrible, terrible pain in my calf, in my muscle, my calf muscle. Excruciating pain. And I woke up this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning in such excruciating pain, I could not move my leg. I could not move my leg. And I know why. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? I need more emunah. I need more emunah. I got out of bed and I repeated to myself, Ein od milvado. There's no one other than the Almighty. And I'm repeating it to myself and repeating it to myself, repeating it to myself. I know I think I'm in control. I'm not in control. It's Hashem. There's nothing other than Hashem. And I continued to repeat it for probably an hour, right? Ein od milvado. There's nothing other than the Almighty. There's nothing other than the Almighty, right? And we think like we have all the control. We have whatever money we have in the bank. We have whatever security we have. There's nothing other than Hashem. That could be gone in a second. In one split second, it's all gone. Hashem turns power off, we're dead. It's over. And the second we realize that Hashem is in control, we have no more stress. Hashem li lo ira. When we know that Hashem is with me, we have nothing to fear. We have nothing to worry. We have no stress. And I'm telling you, as of this moment at 10:28 this morning, and it really was an hour ago already, zero pain in my calf. That stress is gone. Okay, that pain was gone. Right? Because I've said, okay, I'm relinquishing my power. I don't have anything anymore. Hashem, it's all you. Whatever you give me is what I have. I'm stopping to feel like I'm in control all the time. I'm not in control. You're in control. And suddenly the stress is gone. I'm not kidding you. You can come here, you can see I can run a marathon now with my leg. This morning I couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed with my leg. I could not move. I was in such excruciating pain. Ein od milvado. And it's a struggle that every single human being faces. We all have our things where we feel, this is my little corner of where I control things. No, you don't. You don't. Hashem is in control of every single area of our lives. And the more we're able to bring that presence of the Almighty into our consciousness every single day, to bring it into our consciousness again and again and again, to stop 20, 50 times a day and say, Ein od milvado, there's no one other than the Almighty. Everything is in his control. He has power over everything. The more we're able to bring that into our consciousness, right, the greater we'll feel. I mean, to me, it's like a miracle because I was in such pain this morning. But I realized, you know what? There's something there that I'm feeling I need to control, and Hashem is saying, no. All right? So, my dear friends, I wish you a wonderful, amazing, terrific, delicious day, an amazing Shabbos. I'm putting in a video this morning. I really want you all to see it, where I have a guest speaker named Pope Francis, who's going to be speaking on my video. So I want you to see it, please. You'll be able to find it on Instagram /Torch Minute. Follow us there, and you'll see every day we upload a video of inspiration. But it really is a remarkable piece of footage that I found on a 60-minute interview where the Pope talks about Shabbos. He talks about the power of Shabbos, and it really is remarkable. So I'm sharing it with you later today. It will be live. I'll share it also on Facebook. I'll share it on. But if you can go to Torch Minute on Instagram and follow us there, that way you can get it every day, because every day we upload a new inspirational video. We try to keep it to a minute. This one is a little bit longer because he talks for more than a minute. But it really is an important thing for us to know and recognize of the treasure that we have. I see my dear friend Ed Cheka's urging for a question here.
Yes.
Oh, I read your body language. I know.
I know. That's why I went on.
Okay, there you go.
I mean, I held back.
Go for it.
You've basically talked the story of Job. Okay. In one part, if we do our 10% or 20%, God will reward us. And yet the plague is taking both the good and the bad people. And that's to me has always been, the problem, that Job, the story of Job brings. Why do bad things happen to good people?
You know what? It's a bit. I heard an entire lecture about this, and I don't yet fully understand the information to share it enough. Right? I don't understand it enough to share it, but I will, God willing, listen to the lecture again so I can understand the sources for all of this. But it was very shocking. It's a rabbi from Israel I was listening to. And he says, in a time of a plague, the laws of nature change. And the laws of how the world operates normally change. So, and this is part of it, the part of the, there's a difference of how how God's judgment is conducting itself in a time of a plague like this. And where it doesn't discern between righteous and non-righteous. All right, everybody. I love seeing all of you. It's great to see you. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Do something special for Shabbos. We have literally no place to go. So if we're at home, prepare your Shabbos candles, and we're going to do again. I'm going to share all of the pictures of your Shabbos. By the way, how was I forgot to ask you, Bruce and Eliana, how was your Shabbos meal not on the television tray?
Next week. It was wonderful. It was beautiful.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great. So I look forward to seeing more pictures again this week. You send me a picture of your Kiddush cup of your. Let's get prepared. Let's get excited for it. All right, my dear friends. Have an amazing Shabbos, an amazing day. Stay safe and stay healthy. I look forward to seeing. Next week we're not going to have class. Obviously, it's going to be Yom Tov. It's going to be Pesach. But the other class is Sunday morning, Monday night, Tuesday. We have a Tuesday night class. We don't have a Tuesday night class, but Monday night class will be on as normal. All right, my dear friends, have a wonderful, fantastic, delicious Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you.